this. It's really great. NPC and AI as a future solution. Let's talk about that.
This is what surprised me the most, I think, because I always knew sort of there was talk of NPC things. I was familiar with the game for a long time, but I had kind of heard those things. But when I was making the video, it never crossed my mind. I was never thinking about, well, this will all be fixed once I can have an NPC crew. And so many comments, the majority of the comments are, give me my NPC crew and my AI blade. I don't ever want to play with it. And that.
Oh, I took off a wing. Let's go. Oh, we got the MP off.
What? Like, well, hold on. This is a multiplayer game. You guys.
I don't think it'll be enough. I think his teammate's gonna get me.
You want to have all your friends.
All these strings me out.
Everyone working, playing together, doing these fun things.
Come on, it's so close. Yes, there it is, dude.
Saying, just give me my AI blades, give me my NPC crew.
I can't believe I lived that long.
And that was a lot.
I'll go down with the Warrior's death though against this era.
I don't know enough about NPC crews and AI blades, but what do you guys think about that? Was the reaction instead of anything else? That was just get rid of multi-crew.
I think there's two things to
that are somehow structures of the game itself. Going back to WoW, because that's what I know. But like, DPS, tank. Like if you think about like that, you've got radar, navigator, engineer, gunner, pilot. Maybe there's roles like that.
I think so, because I think the permission thing associated with those roles is critical, and the reason is I feel like what I've seen in the presentations from CIG so far, and I don't think this is what they're doing, by the way. That was my impression of it. I'm sure my impression is wrong, but my impression of how they're approaching this is very org-based, right? And then the party is just like how you're divvying up your org members. But we got to remember, I think the future is going to be a mix of all that. You might have, you're running Idris, you might have 5 org members, but then you might have 2 people you just heard chatting in chat that seem like cool people you wanted to invite on. You don't want to invite them into the org yet. You don't even know who they are, but yeah, come on board our Aegis and do this mission with us. You know what I mean? So you might have some org members. You might have just general party members. Those general party members, you may not want to give the same permissions you give to the org. My list is broken. You can't see everyone. And just some of those basic things I think they're going to try to fix first. Then they're going to bring all the crazy new features. But I do think that is critical, like absolutely critical, because in the future, if any of you have ever played EVE Online, you will know there's lots of subterfuge, people from other orgs sneaking into other orgs and getting embedded and stuff. There's going to be situations where people, and possibly even trusted people, are on board your ship and you may want to control how much permission access you give them. Again, none of that stuff feels like a big deal right now, but in 1.0, I think
do you think that they would just maybe in the org tools and stuff, so maybe you would set your ship to be like captain status, so when you're on that vessel, you name this person the captain of that ship, and then that captain of that vessel, everybody on there, he then can move those permissions as he sees fit.
Yeah, I think whoever is the captain of the ship, and in this case, I guess I would probably say owner. Well, maybe not, because in the future where orgs can share ships, maybe that's not the right approach. But whoever is the captain of the ship, and possibly the XO, I think should have those permissions. Essentially, the big part of being a captain, I think, in the future is permission level control of the ship. That's your role as captain. And other things.
And so, like, the roles of the multi-crew ship today you're not really making an impact, or it's very just repetitive, like with the turret. You're not feeling powerful or effective. You don't feel like you really matter. Especially when you got someone flying a Polaris like it's a light fighter, and you're sitting in the turret, you literally can't hit anything.
It's the only way to fly them, Dusty.
To not get shot, yeah.
Yeah, dodging.
I mean, the only thing I would say is like we kind of have an ATC role too that we put on some operations when we're doing refitting. That's
like the big ships. Like, why would you join a crew of 20 to jump in an Idris? And I do think, and I think this is going to be very important in the 1.0 world when we have Death of a Spaceman, if the negatives to dying in the game are punishing enough, not too punishing, we can't feel like we're restarting every time, but if they have enough of a kick to our progression, just enough that flying alone in a fighter is too risky and too dangerous, and being on board that big ship gives you capital level shields, capital level protection, capital level armor, and give you a higher chance of being able to engage in that event, engage in that gameplay, but still make it back alive. I think that could be a big factor in people wanting to crew up. I can foresee a future where flying fighters, especially solo fighters, is a very, very dangerous gameplay. You know what I mean? In terms of your Death of a Spaceman effect.
If they push the death punishing enough to where everyone that wants to play the game feels like they need to be multi-crew in another ship, I think they kill the game.
I agree. I think
I just don't know how that would work.
Well, and I know someone in chat who said it. It's just right. It says surely Death of a Spaceman is a number. Here's what I've been pretty public on my shows that I see a lot of issues with Death of a Spaceman, like a lot of issues. And I would love for CIG to not just tell us how the system works, which they've done before, but tell us how they see it affecting different areas of gameplay. Because let's face it, many of you, I think, will sympathize that doing solo light fighter, medium fighter gameplay, you die a lot. You blow up a lot. You just do. And I do not see how that is going to work in a Death of a Spaceman world. Now, maybe they have information or an idea around it that I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be very dangerous. Maybe that is a balancing factor that they have been considering this entire time. Jen Talk says risk versus reward sort of thing. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know how it's going to work, but it is something that I think about often, that, like, you know, this is kind of the same but not the same, but like when I think of like capital ships especially, and the inherent protection they're going to offer in terms of their Legionnaire or whatever, because I'm going to be in a capital ship with capital shields that can absorb your damage from you exploding right on me. I'm just going to barrel roll the thing like a shark in the water. You know what I mean? It's like, again, I think, and we've seen this with some of the weapons and armor changes that CIG has implemented even just recently. There's obviously going to be survivability benefits with those larger ships that I think a lot of players
having a fighter, like if you had a fighter on the Kraken or on in the Idris, do you think there's a possibility that you could be remote piloting it from the safety of the Idris in one of the crew seats, and they're almost like a drone operator for ship protection? And maybe those ships don't have jump drives, like fighters don't have jump drives, but they have to be with the mothership. And you know, like if you think about it that way, it would be safer, and then you would want to be part of the crew as a fighter pilot, because you would have unlimited lives essentially, right? And that would save your character.
That was awesome. I ran into the asteroid because I was losing that for sure.
Me losing my life, I don't see it being.
But you wouldn't have a ship
viable.
then for a while, because obviously you could run out of ships.
Sure, you could.
Yeah, it's just a thought. You know, trying to figure out how you manage Death of a Spaceman, and
There's too much.
about everyone wanting to be inside of a big capital ship for the protection. How do you mitigate those two things?
Well, I mean, part of it is you know, using those carriers appropriately, putting the fighters on carriers. Using having those fighter modes. Yeah, you may blow up a lot, but being able to respawn in those med beds on those capital ships, where you have extra fighters, they're ready to go.
I mean, you know, I've often thought about this with like the PvP crowd, you know, back when, you know, for example, I'd see videos like from Avenger 1 and stuff, and no shade on Avenger. I don't know Avenger all that well. We've talked a time or two, but you take someone like that or any player out there.
Ooh, there it is.
Into the current combat that.
He needed to EMP me, dude, but he did
Approach
not.
that is
He just let the
accessible
deadbolts
here right now.
land. You can't just
I've
let the
often
deadbolts
wondered
land.
what that was going to do to the people that love that
There it
type
is.
of troll up to a lifetime
In
now.
19 days.
In 19 days, we
19
raised
days.
almost $21,000. Lifetime raise of $61,295. Can we get to $21,000? It's possible. We're not done with questions. Who knows? Here we go, everybody. We're gonna
Blueprint attached to that. It drops in the data pad there, and we have, say, 15 members in the group. Do you think I should rate the group size, or should it be exclusive to the area that it's in? Drop.
You all start shooting each other.
Well, they already said. I think they mentioned already that they were going to. Like, it was going to be more than just one bombing. Like, it was going to be a few. But you know, how many do you think that should be? Should that be a set amount based on how many are in the party, or should it be on the instance of the area that you're in?
And then who gets it? What the that many people that they got the weekend.
Run it again, but that gives you incentive to run it again.
It does, but you know,
True.
their account balance. I don't know.
I almost wonder if we can pull the just system where, okay, fine, there's a limited set of rewards for certain rewards. Those go to certain players, but then the other players can earn maybe their guild credits on whatever guild that's associated with, and then if you get enough of those guild credits, you can buy the item if you haven't been rewarded from the guild. It just requires a certain amount of credits, something like that. By the way, catching up on a few follows real quick. Peroxide, Relief Outdoors, Joshua Michael, White Boy, thanks for follow. Old name. Igor Moskalev and Xerxes, thank you for those follows. Gasoline just reached 5-stream streak. Thank you very much, Gasoline. Art, what were you saying?
I was gonna say, yeah, we tweaked around with the thought of a
Or something like that. I
Yeah.
forget what it's. Yeah, something like that. A lot of guilds and stuff.
Check fire.
Yeah.
and then we just have a shop, and if you have so many points, you go, hey, I want this, and then we go to our guild bank guy and yank it out. Here you go.
Cool. I like that. Radar Echo 7 says, question, why can't CID just use Yelp-like review system to ensure that consistent, talented folks get the laudations they deserve? So essentially talking about the reputation thing there again. And I think, me personally, I do hope the reputation